Texas. Don't turn that dial. This is the Fly Mackey Show, and I'm your host, Fly Mackey. You can call me David, too. I like that name. Amber calls me Dick. So we are broadcasting live in Corpus Christi. Hi there, guys. We're broadcasting live in Corpus Christi, Houston, College Station, Beaumont, Texas, Lake Charles, Louisiana, Yeshia, probably watching from Alabama and from all other states around the United States, and as well as a whole host of countries. We won't even talk about them all right now. But anyway, glad to have you on here. I'm your host, Fly Mackey. You can call me David too. I like that name. Amber calls me Dick. So it's a crazy day in politics, in the crypto world. I mean, we're coming up here in October, September, October, a couple of months, and October is October, and things go through the roof usually in October. Now, last year we had, or it was the year before, we had a huge dip, and it came way early. And but October is October, so be ready for it. I'm telling you, those who are prepared, and you don't have to have millions to be prepared. Okay, but get your accounts in order. We're not giving any financial advice. I'm live on TV, so I can't really. I got to be careful what I say because I'm a cusser. I love to cuss. And I don't care what anybody says about it. I'm a cusser and I love to do it. And I don't drink. I don't do drugs. But I do like to risk it. You know what they say? No risk it, no biscuit. That's what they say. No risk it, no biscuit. Anyway, you got my background here. This is a virtual background. And it just was popped up today. I'm like, who put that virtual background in there? Anyway, I'm in my studio office here in Houston, Texas. We have another studio across town, and but this one's where I like to be most of the time. Anyway, we're going to be doing some traveling. We have lots of events coming up. You can always get into those events with us if you want to. If you know Bruce Porter, this is his channel. Now, once again, I'm Fly Mackey. I have, let's see here. Hold on. Don't go nowhere. This is going to get exciting. I'll say what I normally say is, see this right here? If you're not in debt and you don't have credit to pay for the debt, you're not even in the game. You're going to hear me say that 1,000 times. I'm going to say it 10,000 more times. It is 100% the truth. If you're not in debt, and a lot of you are, so congratulations. If you have credit, use that credit to pay your debt, not your paycheck. I'm going to show you some stuff. It's going to blow your mind. Really, our biggest goal here is to make you your own banker. How many times have you walked in the bank or just driven by one or just said, man, those banks, they make all the money. Well, they do make a lot of the money. And you can do the same thing. You can become your own banker. Now, there's half the audience right now out of the 30 of you. We'll get up to a couple of 2,000 or 3,000, I'm guessing, by the end of the night. But half of you are going to say, that Indian's dumber than a box of rocks. What a scam. What an idiot. And the other half are saying, how? Or I already do it. Or I'm on my way to becoming my own banker. This system right here, this debt system that you're in right there, that right there, our whole financial system is set up on debt. And so money needs to come out of the system that creates the debt. And then money needs to go in. It's a rotating like that, rotating volume, rotating accounts. And the quicker you learn this, and by the way, all you folks in the crypto world, I was the same way. but it's a huge mistake. And when you learn how to become your own banker, crypto works right. We were doing commercials the other day, and I was like, and I kept messing up. You know, after about the 100th take, I was like, oh my gosh, this stuff is killing me. Why don't you put a commercial together with all the bloopers? You know, they want things to look perfect and stuff like that. If you see our TV show, you'll see our commercials. They look pretty good. But once again, I make a lot of mistakes. And it is the way it is, you know. I don't think TV should be perfect. And ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, you know, they want the perfect TV. They want everything to be perfect. And life ain't perfect. You know, they've lost about 70% of their viewership. They still have the market of television watchers. People who are watching, they're called viewers, TV viewers. Okay. They still have the lion's share, but that has gone down like an amazing amount. And when companies like Pew Research, amongst a lot of other ones, as well as Nielsen ratings and a whole host of other survey companies and researchers asked, they just send out emails. They send out emails, some with phone calls, some with a text message. Hey, do you want to do a survey? Have you ever got one of those texts? Hey, thanks for this and that. Would you take a survey? And especially like if you're on social media and they say, hey, how did you like that video? Would you be willing to take a survey? And then they ask you all kinds of questions. They're like, hey, this has nothing to do with the video I just saw. But they want to know, this is how they get your attention. They get your attention, and then they ask you all these questions. Hold on one second for me. Hold on. Okay. And so they ask you these questions, and the number one question that you folks out there in TV land said, they said, why did you stop watching ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, and like CNN, MSNBC, those type networks? And the number one answer was not fake news, but something similar to it. It was like they were asked, the answer was, well, the experience that those networks were telling me I was experiencing was not the same experience that we were living. And so there was a disconnect there. And when that happens, you lose people. It's like when somebody's lying to you, you know they're lying to you, and you're like, I'm not saying, and they were lying to you. It's called propaganda. They're allowed to do it. President Obama, our first black president, what a loser. I mean, he totally screwed us, people of color. He didn't like, he's a white guy, right? He's half white. He hates black people. Anyway, it is what it is. I liked Obama, but I'm not, he totally screwed us. And you've got, they passed, and Bush did it too. What a scumbag that guy was. Those of you who liked George Bush from Texas, that guy, his dad said, quote, if the American public knew what we did to them, they would, and he's talking about the Bush family. Bush Sr. said, if the American public knew what we did to them, he's talking about his family, they would chase us down in the streets and lynch us. That's his quote. Bush Sr. said, if the American people knew what we did to them, he's talking about his family, they would chase us down in the streets and lynch us. That's his words. Anyway, the deep state and whoever they are, You know, they're around a lot longer than the presidents are. Presidents get 4 years, and that's it. And then after that, you know, so they don't really get to do very much. A president doesn't. And now hopefully you get one in there and you get 20, 30 years of something good, right? And we've had a lot of years of a lot of screw up in there. But once again, the presidents aren't the most powerful people. It's the people behind the presidents. It's those who have been there for decades and decades and decades who are they're gonna be there when Biden leaves. They're gonna be there when Trump leaves if he doesn't go in there and clean house. If he fires, now he said he was gonna clean the swamp. Donald J. Trump said he was going to clean the swamp. Now, I am a fan of Donald J. Trump. I'm a fan of his, a big fan, because I just like the guy. But once again, you know, he did not clean the swamp. And it doesn't matter how good he thought he was. You know, the guys in the black suits showed up. Same thing that Putin told him. Putin says the guys in the black suits show up and they're more powerful than you are. And he's seen presidents come and go. We all seen presidents come and go, and none of them get anything done ever. Why? Because they're not as powerful as we think they are. So anyway, I'm going to vote for the guy. Once again, let's see what happens out of it. But good luck if anything happens. And this is why people who are wealthy, people who become their own bankers, and the wealthy become their own bankers, but you don't have to be wealthy. Have you ever seen you know that old guy I'm talking about? You know, this guy may live in a simple house, drive a simple old truck or old car, usually an old truck, and they got a wad of cash, and they put all their kids through any school that they want to go to. Their kids are all, you know, turn out to be great citizens of this great country, but they just the normal old guy and gal. You know that person, right? You see them in every neighborhood, in the black neighborhoods, in the Spanish neighborhoods, in the Asian neighborhoods, in the white neighborhoods, in the Native American neighborhoods. You name it. They're in every neighborhood. You know that good old boy and that good old girl. You know who I'm talking about. These guys. These are the folks who learned how to become their own bankers. And when you learn how, and who decided not to live the lifestyle. So you get somebody like me who was poor most of my life. And then I tell the story, you can go look me up. I went from the outhouse to the penthouse. And then I went back to the outhouse. But I never experienced anything like that. I didn't know what it was to have money. And anyway, I had to experience it. It's a lot of fun. But once again, I'll give you one here. I'll give you one. And you guys don't forget to go to Watch Smart Money and click follow. I got 16 followers. Thank you for following me right now. So once again, let me just remember I was talking about the banking and the good old boys and the good old guys who do the banking, right? But I have a television network in Texas. Guys, don't forget to go to no. See this right here? So this is my television network. You can see me talking here. And and tonight I'm on Bruce Porter's X channel. Thank you, Bruce. And Bruce has a show called Impact Live, Money Impact Live on my network. And he's a big hit out there in Texas. Of course, he's a big hit. Everyone loves him. You guys, those of you who are followers of him, knows Bruce very well. Anyway, great guy, has a really popular show on my television network. And you can see the different cities we're in. Look at that Indian right there. You know who that guy is? And then there's Bruce, Impact Money Show. Great. He's got a really popular show on our network. And these are the locations we're at right here. Houston, College Station, Beaumont, Lake Charles, that's Louisiana, Corpus Christi, and Tallahassee, Florida is coming. And we're scaling to another 103 other stations. So we're growing. Bruce is going to be a TV star. He already is here in Texas. But once again, thank you, Bruce, for letting us come on to your channel here on X and talk to your audience of 154,000 people. So anyway, we encourage you, tell your friends, tell your families to get on. We talk, our whole network talks about credit and crypto. And if you don't like the banks, listen to me. As sure as the day is long, become your own banker. Become your own banker. Anybody can become your own banker. And then the crypto works perfectly with the banks. So why don't you become your own banker so that you can bypass the central banks? And the central banks are in between the Federal Reserve and then Chase and the other banks like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Truist, PNC, you name it, US Bank, you name it. There's thousands and thousands of banks. There's about there's like a dozen really big banks. Then there's like 300 or 400 medium-sized banks, and then there's a few thousand, several thousand, what they call local banks. That are just in certain areas, certain regions or certain areas. Like Arizona has a bank called Desert Financial. They have like 140 locations, all in Arizona. Okay. And it's like a credit union. Okay. And those are considered local banks, but there's thousands of those here in the United States. And you can become your own banker. You can practice your own banking strategies, okay, and literally borrow money from yourself. I talk about it all the time about how to use your credit cards and how to use your lines of credit. And if you have a house, 100% you should be your own banker. You have zero reasons for being poor. Now, I'm going to give you some statistics that's going to blow your mind. So anyway, Trump, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, those guys, Tucker Carlson, and more, they set the internet on fire the last couple of months, but specifically Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they had over 1 billion views. 1 billion views. Well, thank you. Which is incredible. Incredible. So anyway, it's amazing. When you reach that kind of viewership, you better, and if you have a business, you better have your foundation in order so that you can accept all that business that wants to come to you. And listen, I'm talking to everybody. Brown people, black people, yellow people, brown people, white people. I don't know what all colors there are. There's a lot of colors, but we're just different shades, right? But I'm talking to all of us, okay? Most of us have been slaves for thousands of years. Most of us, including the whites. History says so. I don't believe in racism. I don't believe in it. That's what the rich people want us to do. They want us to be divided. You can be divided all you want, but you're never going to get ahead in life by blaming. I have a proverb for you, okay? The man who blames other people has a long way to go. The man who blames himself is halfway there. And the man who blames no one has arrived. And that's where you want to be. Stop blaming. Be responsible for yourself. And once you're in charge of your own economy, and most of you know me, I'm a really quiet guy. I'm getting pretty excited. I can get excited on TV. I mean, the personality comes out on TV and on the internet. I do get a little excited. But I can tell you, I don't know how all that works. Okay. So I can get a little excited on TV. So you have to forgive me a little bit. But let me tell you this, that the minute that I took responsibility for Fly Mackey, David Mackey, was the day that things changed for me in every area of my life. Physically, I got better. The stress of taking on other people's whatever and guilt for other people, once I let go of that, once I started taking responsibility for my own uneducatedness, because we're in the age of knowledge now. I mean, you have the internet. You don't need to go to college. I encourage you, don't go to college. What a waste of money. What a waste of money. And if you're mad at me, I don't care. It's a waste of money. We send our, listen, look what we do. For 12 years, we put our kids in a box. I did it. We put them in a prison called school, where the teachers teach them to hate us. They don't they hate them. They teach them to hate America. They teach you definitely to hate being white. Don't hate being you. They hate the police. They hate the military. They hate the man, any institutions. They hate making money. Anybody with money who makes money is the bad guy. It's hate, 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 hate. Instead of, how about getting involved and be a man and being the provider? And I'm just talking to men. You ladies, forgive me for a second because I'm talking to men. But if this pertains to you ladies, go ahead and take it because you can. But we were taught we should be the providers, the protectors, the defenders. That's what a man does. We're hunter-gatherers. We were made to make babies, and so our offspring can carry on our legacy. That's what men are. We weren't made to be limp-wristed pussies. We weren't made to be that. We were made to be, to get out there and hunt and gather and provide and at all cost protect and defend. That's what a man does. Not a fake man. That's what a man with a set of balls does. Who's born with them. Not who says they're a man because they don't like how they feel today. Anyway, I'm for everybody. I know some people who say they're a man, they're not. I know some men who say they're women and then they ain't, and I still like them. And I'll tell you why. Because once you like a person, you can't unlike them. You guys know what I'm talking about. Everyone out there in TV land knows exactly what I'm talking about. When you like a person, it takes a freight train. It takes something so major to unlike them. So I like everyone. I'm not against anybody. I'm just saying, for those of you who are men, we were made a certain way. And that's to be hunters, gatherers, providers, protectors, and leaders. It is what it is, okay? So boy, I went totally sideways. But I can tell you this, and I'm an old guy. I want to do my best to honor the audience that Bruce has worked real hard for the last 10 years. I got these hairs. They grow out your nose. They grow. I pull them out, but they tickle. They tickle. I got some hairs that are growing. I need to cut them, or I need to pull them. And then when you pull them, they go, oh, they hurt, make your eyes water. All right. But getting back to what we're talking about, cryptocurrency, and those of you guys, and if you know some crypto people, tell them, get on the TV set. You got to watch this guy, what he's saying about crypto. And then I'll show you my really kindergarten, basic 5-year-old type charts that I do when I chart a coin. I like keeping charting really, really simple. But anyway, getting back to this, guys and gals, the banking goes right along with crypto. The banks aren't going away, guys. Those of you out there in the crypto world who think that the banks are going away, guess again. That opportunity for crypto to take over already sailed. It sailed because the guys who own coins, and I'm not against them, I know a bunch of them. I know them all. Well, I don't know them all, but I know a bunch of them. And the OGs, the guys who started coins, they decided they wanted the money more than they wanted anything else to change. And that's okay. It is what it is. And then crypto has gone totally in a different way. And if you think that crypto's taking over the banks, then you're fantasizing like you got a mental issue, because it ain't going to happen. Not even close. Now, can they work together? 1,000%. Are they going to work together? 1,000%. Is crypto going to take over banking? Yes. But it will take 100 years for that to happen. Maybe not 100, but it's going to take a lot. And I'll give you an example. Everyone's all up in arms about electric cars. Oh my gosh, they're going to replace our gas vehicles. You got to get in reality, folks, because most people don't live in reality. Here's another thing. Those of you who live with mom and dad, smartest son of a guns in the world. We're the only country that says grow up and get out of the house and go somewhere else. The only country that preaches that. The only country out of 109, well, it depends on who you listen to. There's about 195 countries in the world recognized, and another 5 or 6 that aren't really recognized, but they're kind of provinces and whatever. They say they're countries, and people say, yeah, okay, whatever. But we're the only country in the world that raises kids and tells them get out and go live somewhere else. And the only country in the world that teaches kids, they teach it in school, grow up, go get your own house. Don't live with mommy and daddy. Don't listen to what they have to say. They're stupid. Why would you listen to them? They just gave birth to you. They just feed you every day. They just house you every day. And some of you not very good. I was a single parent and not very good. But it is what it is. And the schools teach the kids to hate their parents. And we still send our kids to the school so they can keep hating us. So who's the stupid ones? Yeah, that's what we do. Thank you for joining us. It's 11:30 in the East Coast. By the time I end, it's going to be about 1 in the morning. It's Friday night. I'm trying to do my best to keep it as civil and not do any cussing. if I can help it. And we'll see. I don't like that picture, but it just came up there. I know how to take it off, but I don't think I want to. We'll just leave it up there. I got a lot to talk about. Lot to talk about. Look at that Indian right there. I like to talk about Indians, Mexicans, black people, because I got them in my family. I like to talk about Asians because I got some in the family. I like to talk about white people. I like to talk about, because I got them in my family. I like to talk about Jewish people because my mom was Jewish. I like to talk about the Irish and the Catholic because my dad was Irish Catholic. So, yeah, I like to talk about all kinds of people. I got a tradition. I don't know if it's a tradition. Here's what I believe. If you got it in you, you can talk about it. And since I got all that in my family, I talk about every one of them. So if I ever get in front of like a reporter and they say, you said this about Native Americans, aren't you worried about offending them? My answer is going to be offended. Same way if I say something about black people and then some reporter says, well, you said this. You should be blah, blah, blah. Aren't you offended? I'm going to say, well, you be offended because I ain't. If you say something about my mama, though, you can say something about her too. She was a prostitute. I come from humble beginnings. And I'm telling you this, I used to fight over that stuff all the time. For about 2 years, I had this one right here, had a black eye all the time for fighting. Until one day, somebody that I was mentoring me said, you know, she makes her own decisions. You don't have to fight over the decisions that she made. That was the day that I stopped fighting over that issue. And I can tell you this, the day that we start taking accountability for, and by the way, Mom, she's passed away now. I love you. I got to meet her several times before she passed. And you know, it's crazy. I met people when I came out to the reservation, when I came out to Arizona. I'm in Texas now where my business is. But when I came out there, I had a guy tell me, you know, I loved your mom. She was the best teacher ever. I can tell you all the things she taught us. So what happens was she made lots of babies. When I was 2 days old, her and my pervert dad were in a drunk, and then they got in the car and just left us and never came back. Best thing that ever happened. Now, would I have loved to have been raised by them? Yes, but I wasn't. I was adopted by Erna Mae Galt and John Aloysius Mackey, a Jewish mother and an Irish Catholic father. I didn't know whether I was pitching or catching for about 12 years. Great parents. I didn't know I wasn't white till I was about 12. And then somebody told me, you know, you're not white, right? I'm like, what? What you talking about? I didn't get it. I didn't put the two together because I had such great parents that was teaching us about farming and fishing and boating. We were out on the lake all the time skiing. I was 3 years old the first time I was on a wakeboard. 3. First time they put me out in the middle of the lake behind a boat. And my dad said, let's go. And I'm like, yeah, 3 years old. We spent a lot of time, out in the fields, and a lot of time in the gardens, a lot of time raising cattle and pigs, sheep, and dogs. Yeah. And birds. We had lots of birds. So, they were teaching us about singing and dancing. We used to have this song and dance act. We'd travel the country. And most the older folks know what I'm talking about. They used to have what's called musical theater. And you do a song and dance act for 15, 20 minutes while somebody was eating. And you do that 3 or 4, sometimes 5 times a night. You do an act. And And that's what we did. And we got paid for it. And then we'd travel all over doing that stuff. Grew up in the back of a station wagon. That's how that happened. But so I had great parents that taught us a lot of things about singing and dancing and art and bow hunting and gun hunting. You know, I had good parents, and they gave us some great values and some great teachings. And so I didn't know that I was brown. And I did know I was brown. I'm not stupid, but I didn't put the two together, that these two people were not my parents and that they were white, because they were such great parents. They just were always teaching things about forgiveness and not thinking about none of that stuff and not blaming anybody else, to be in charge of myself. And then, so anyway, boy, I digressed there. I'm telling you, I went way sideways, but I just want you guys and gals to know, once we take responsibility for ourselves, stop blaming anybody and put it right back on us. That gives us the opportunity to start straightening things out, because then we see what we've done. I'm going to show you something. And then, God, there's so many different directions I want to go tonight. So basically, the way I own the network, I do what I want to do. When I'm on a show, I have it all planned out. I have all the things I want to say. We don't use a teleprompter, but I have my notes, and I spend a couple of hours a day getting ready for the show that I'm going to do in the evening. Okay. Plus all the other stuff that I do. But once again, you have to prepare. Typically, when you do radio, TV, or anything that has to do with something like this, where you're in front of somebody, you do about an hour research for every hour you're going to be on TV. That's the way it works. And a little bit more if you don't have a staff. We have a staff, but once again, there's a lot of preparation to get on TV. So anyway, once you have the facts in front of you, that I am the person responsible for everything that happens to me, not the government, not the boogeyman, not the white man, not the black man, not the brown man, but me. Not the popo, the police. By the way, every time I see a police officer, if I can, I say, thank you for your service and be safe today. I have planted good seeds. That's why I don't have no trouble. And I don't break the law, usually. I got problems. We have a deputy sheriff that lives across the street. Yeah, and I've been trying to see him because we just moved into that place. It's a little ranch. But I tried to see him. Anyway, I seen him out in the yard. I'm like, I gotta go. And I get in my old van and I go over there and I tell him, I just thank you. I always love living close to the po-po. He started laughing. I go, yeah. And if I ever have any trouble, I'm glad you're close by. You'll know who it is. Anyway, I have good karma everywhere I go. Pretty good karma because I plant the seeds. Now, I want to show you something about time management. There's not enough time in the day, but over the period of the next, few weeks, months, someday you'll get somebody better looking than me on here and younger, and to take my place. Okay. But in the meantime, you get me. All right. But once you learn how to take responsibility for you, then your whole life will change on a dime. And that's the hardest part, is learning how to take responsibility for you. That's the hardest part. But once again, it's not that hard once you do. Once you do take responsibility for you, it's all over, because it's going to skyrocket. That's what happens. It's a trajectory in the other direction than you've been going. And you better have your seatbelt on because you're going to go for a ride. And it's a great ride. And there may be some pain involved. You may lose some friendships. You may lose some really close friendships. You heard what I said when I started the show. You know, I did it for those in your circle, whoever that is, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband, your wife, your relatives, your friends, your business partners, those who you network with, whoever is in that circle of life with you. If they don't care about you when you're gone and you're not around, they even care less about you when you are. And that is a really hard statement to swallow. If the people in your circle, in your world, if they don't care when you're gone, and there's a lot to do with caring, preparing, getting ready for the next time they see you, doing business with you, making sure things are in order, making sure their life and anything transaction they're going to do with you is in order, preparing for the future, buttoning up things from the past, because we're going on a trail together. We're going to trudge the road. The road's already there, and we get to trudge it. And what that means is whenever you go down a path, you guys and gals know what I'm talking about. You go down the path and you can see it. That's where somebody's been walking. They made a little indentation there, and you can see, oh, that's the trail right there. That's called trudging. They trudged it and made a little indentation, like a little ditch, and that's the trail. So if we're not going down that road together, then we're not going down it at all. And this is a really hard pill to swallow. So So if while you're gone, and while they're gone, but let's talk about you. While you're gone, if there is no preparation and they're not continuing to work on your relationship, whatever that is, friendly or business or whatever, and they don't care about you when you're gone, they care less about you when you're there. That's a very painful statement to swallow. Very painful. But it is what it is. And so the sooner that we can have that eye-opening interaction with real life, the quicker we can make a real life for ourselves. This is coffee, and I got it in a... We're going to take a break here in about 5-10 minutes, and then I'm going to play a video about infinite banking or one of Christy Van's videos. I'm a big fan of Christy Van. I started out talking about becoming your own banker, and I'm going to talk ultimately forever, or a lot of things about becoming your own banker, because we live in a country here where we can all be wealthy. Let me say this again, and shut your mouth. Those of you who said he's a liar, if you're in a room and you believe this and somebody said that's not true, don't believe them. We live in a country that has a financial system that's set up for everyone to get wealthy. Everyone. There's an old proverb saying, if you believe somebody has screwed your life over, you're right. It's you. So as soon as you can take responsibility for everything you do, And a lot of you do a lot of good stuff right. And a lot of you just are there, but you don't know you're there. And a lot of you is going in the wrong direction. But all you got to do is turn around, stop, turn around, go the other way. Is it going to be painful? Dang right. Dang right. Ask any woman, any mother who's ever had a baby, and she's going to tell me that hurt. Painful. But look what they bring into the world. A life. So without pain, there is no life. You have to have the pain to have the change. And we can all do it if we want to. Now, you don't have to. You can keep your same day-to-day job and be the same whatever you want to be, because it's not for everybody. It can be for everybody, but only a few are going to take advantage of it. That's why 98% of every human, this is talking about America, fail. We fail because we know this because of deathbed confessions. When people said, I wished I would have. You can add whatever you want after that. I wished I would have. And we live our whole life wishing that we would have done something other than what we did. So you can get there, 555 viewers. So now you can see the commercial on my over my left shoulder there on our TV set. We have commercials going. So the folks in Corpus Christi, Houston, College Station, Beaumont, Lake Charles, Louisiana, they're taking a television break. We ought to take a break here for a minute. I want to go heat up my coffee. I think this is the very only TV break we've had the whole hour. But for sure, you know, confronting our life decisions. And by the way, you may say, hey, I got it going on pretty good. Got a great job, put money in a 401k. I've got good retirement put away, got money put away for the kids, for college, you know, got money put away for an emergency. We got an RV, or we got a, you know, a second truck, and we second car, you know, we got a mortgage, you know, we take a vacation whenever we want, kind of stuff. I may even have a business. Or some of you are like, I don't have none of that and I don't need it and I'm doing just fine and I'm debt free and I don't own anything and I like it that way. If you're in the system here in the United States where you're dependent on the system, then none of that I just said is ever going to satisfy your needs, because it can't, because you have to continue to be in their system and under their control until you can learn to get out of it. And most Americans, their entire life, never get out of it. Ever. It just don't happen. And so this is why we know by deathbed confessions. Look at that Indian over there on TV. I got a mustache there. It's a little bit more than I have now. That was up in my penthouse there in Tempe, Arizona. So we know from these deathbed confessions that that most people believe that they totally wasted their life. So over here, our channel, Smart Money Culture Television, you know, and you can see it right over there above my left shoulder there on the screen. And I got a call from Yeshia out of Alabama. Hi, Yeshia, if you're still watching, out of Alabama today. So that just goes to show you the reach of the network when you're out there broadcasting and you're marketing and advertising and you're going to events and stuff like that. With the great Bruce Porter, we're going to be in an event and going to be at an event there in New York in yeah, Donald, I don't know why you send messages like that when we're on TV. Like, cut it out. Stop doing it. So what happens is when we listen, you don't need to tell people your faults. You have to take care of your own life and whatever you've done to screw it up or not screw it up. Because I was just talking about folks who really do good. But once again, if the thing that we like to teach the most is how to be in control of the banking functions that we've turned over to the banks. And some of those banking functions are like borrowing money and where we put the money and who gets to make the interest on our money. And where, if we have a mortgage, who gets the interest, who gets the principal? Where does that go? I can't tell you how many times somebody's told me, well, I have a house and I got a ton of money. You have no money as long as it's in that house. And the house is a liability and the value goes down, not up. It goes down, not up. It goes down, not up. If you're not putting money into it, it may go up by default. But once again, depending on what you put into it, it can only go up so much. So we looked to buy a house over here in Houston, and the lady put in like $170,000 into a house that's worth about 300, and she wants 400. She thinks it's worth 400, but the houses in her area don't sell for that. And she can wish in one hand and poop in the other. She's going to get poop every time because the house, nobody's going to pay for a house when the comps in that neighborhood are different. They're not going to pay you more just because you put more into it. It's the way it works. I'm sorry. Okay. But anyway, and that's okay. But it does when the value goes up and the bank say, hey, by the way, your house, you've got is worth, we did a market value on it and it's, let's say, worth 600,000. You go, oh, wow, 600 grand. Then 80% of that, if it's paid for, is yours. Let's do the math on that. 600,000 times 80%. That's 480 grand, $480,000. See that right there? 480,000. And that's, if your house is completely paid for, that's what you can get out of your house. And that's your money to invest anyway. But most people leave it in there in those houses for decades and decades and decades and decades and struggle for no reason. And all that interest that you pay on the house, all that interest you pay on the house, guess who gets to keep it? Not you. Brian just sent a message. Okay. Well, we need 100 more of her, except qualified leads. Good job. We had a lead come in today, Yeshia, and I got to get on the phone with her. She was totally blown away that I was the one who actually called. So if you're seeing our advertisement or something like that, and then you get a call from me, it's okay. I call a lot of my own leads that come in. So if you go to Smart Money Culture and click on the credit, see this right here, credit, and click on the credit, smartmoneyculture.tv/credit. You can pull up the QR code and you click on the credit here. It's going to pull up a form, apply now. You click on that. It's going to bring you right here. And then you just put in your name, David Mackey. There's our phone number, 480-605-3848. Here's an email address right here, flymackytv@gmail. That's not my company, but that's not my company email address, but that's an email address I use as a consumer. I been in business since 2020, way before 2020. I have 4+ credit cards. And the reason we ask how much liquid you have is because that's going to tell us how much we can help guide you along the way in order to set up yourself correctly. So the banks go, I want to loan these guys some money or give them credit. I heard about you on Google search. I agree. There you go. I'm not a robot. Bam, submit it. And then we have a program, and it tells you right away whether it thinks that you're going to be able to qualify to get money. And based on that information I put in, it says you are pre-qualified for 100,000 plus, zero collateral business credit. Bam, there you go. Click on schedule a call, and here comes up my calendar, and then you can get on the calendar. Bam, 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 bam. And there you go. Put your info in there, and then give me a little note. Just like that. Do I have any time left on Monday? Yeah, I've got a bunch of time left for Monday. Woo, look at all those for Monday coming up. Click on 9 in the morning. Next. Put your name in. David Mackey. Email. FlyMackeyTV. And then I want to do a Zoom call instead of a phone call. And the meeting. What do you want to talk about? Getting credit cards and a HELOC. Want to start a business, getting older, thinking about retirement, worried about the election, has nothing to do with anything, but add it in there anyway. Sending kids to college, have about 80K in credit, 801, 80K in credit cards, no lines of credit, want to remodel house, and then click schedule event. There you go. So I just wrote a little note to what I wanted the people to see, and bam, there he goes. And he goes right on the calendar. That's how it works, folks. That's how it works. Wow, we did 8 minutes of commercials, guys. 8 minutes. That's a lot of commercial time. All right, hold on, fellas. We just did 8 minutes of commercial time. That is way too much. Not complaining, just saying. I want to show you guys something. Okay? Here's one of my favorite commercials. Have you ever dreamed of going anywhere you want, whenever you want? I don't always buy cryptocurrency, but when I do, it's Bitcoin. This commercial here, commercial here. I look like the same Indian though. This commercial here.
Sell when you're hungry, because you'll take scraps and people will try to use that. When they thought I was doing bad at a season, I was doing bad. The offers came in for my house from my own bank.
Literally.
Called me on the sly, my banker. He knew somebody who knew somebody. That's always my favorite word.
Right now, I could get somebody on the phone right now that will tell you that I was pitching Bitcoin at $7. Yeah. Hold on a second. No, we don't want to do that one. I can tell you people that I was pitching Bitcoin when it was hardly nothing. Okay. I'm going to show you something here. This is with your time management. Man, I don't like that. What does this have to do with being your own banker? Nothing. $4 a.m. wake up. If all the billionaires get up at 4 a.m., every single one of them, they've done interview after interview after interview after interview. Every wealthy person I've interviewed all say they get up at 4 a.m. or even earlier. The average American starts day at 9 a.m. At 9 a.m. That's a 5-hour difference. The average person lives typically less than an hour from work. So somewhere between an hour and less from work. They all move, we all gravitate towards our work. Now let's say, okay, let's just say that they get up at 9:30 or 8:30. They get up at 8:30, and we know this is the average of when people get up. 8:30 a.m. to be at work at 9 a.m. And if you get up at 4, you have a 4.5 hour lead. You get that? 4 a.m., 8:30 wake up. You have 4.5 hours head start. Multiply that by 365 days. Let's do the math on that, okay? I'm a little fat. That's okay, I'm losing weight. .5 times 365 is 1,642 hours and a half. 1,642.5 hours. Divide that by 24 hours. That gives you 68.43 days. 68 and 40% of the next day. When you get up at 4 a.m., because the average person that you're competing against here in the United States doesn't get up till 8:30. You have a 4.5 hour lead on that person. And you multiply that by 365 days, that's 1,642.5 hours, or 68.43 days. By the end of the year, you're ahead of that person by 68 days. You have a 68-day head start. Are you getting this? You have a 68-day head start on the average person. And anybody, it may be a little uncomfortable. Oh my gosh, I have to get up. I want to sleep in and go to Starbucks and get my latte mocha moo moo. I can't do that. And then I got to go down there and get my bagel. No, I can't do that. When you learn how to be in charge of your own economy, your whole life changes. Let me tell you something. Listen, if somebody screwed up your life, you're right, it's you. Underdeveloped. This is not a put down, but some of you are going to take it that way. 39,000 to 150K a year. That's this category right here. Typically, there's 95 million Americans that fit into this category. Now, the financial institutions have designated 5 areas, 5 different categories. You tell me which one you're in. Billionaire, centimillionaire. Those are the people who make $100 million up to a billionaire. 1%ers. Those are people who make 440,000 or higher, up to 100 million. So that's a really big group. The underdeveloped. Those are people who make 39,000 to 150,000 a year. There's 39,000 to 150,000 a year. There's 150 million Americans in that category. It's the biggest block of money in the United States. And 1,000%, you should be taking your crypto or going towards crypto. I'm not giving financial advice, but going towards crypto. If you're not in crypto, become your own banker and the two will match together. Why would you do business with the other banks when you could become your own banker? You can't get rich watching sitcoms, but let me tell you this, and I'm going to give you some stats that's going to blow you away. I'm in the TV business. So we want you to continue to watch TV. But watch this. The average American watches 1,500 hours a year in TV. A year. Let's do the math on this. This is going to be fun to watch. Watch. I'm in the TV business. I want you to continue to watch TV, especially our channel, okay? I probably spend almost 0 hours a day watching TV, except on the weekends. Now, typically when I stop working, wind down the day, right before I go to sleep, if I have a favorite show or something like that, I'll spend a few minutes watching it, but rarely ever spend hours, okay? Because I don't have a lifestyle that permits that. And you don't have to either. But look at this. 68 and 62 and a half. Are you looking at that? That's your competition. If you just cut out the TV, by the way, don't cut out the TV yet. But the fluff in the TV is what gets you. The fluff in the TV. And by the way, people get a lot of comfort from watching TV. But the average person, by the way, television blows away the internet. The average person only spends 200 hours a year on the internet. So those of you out there who think the internet's everything, the internet's not everything. It's only for us who, I don't want to get too crazy here, but I'm just trying to tell you, the TV is still king. Whether you want to believe it or not, go do your own research, or you just keep watching our shows. I'm always putting out stats and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if you just cut out most of your TV sitting around and watching, by the way, once you get on a schedule and take responsibility for yourself, you're going to go, holy cow, what am I going to do with all this extra time I have in the day? Imagine being 130 days, almost 131 days ahead of your competition. I know. This is why the rich get rich. This is the group. If you're in this group right here, you're lucky. This is the group you want to be in right here. You have the billionaires. Everybody wants to be there. Billionaires. You have the centa millionaires. This is the 100 millionaires. You have the 1 percenters. 1 percenters. You have the underdeveloped. And then you have the hand to mouth. And this group right here used to be the paycheck to paycheck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This group right here is the largest block of money in the United States. It's the biggest block right here. And this is where you want to be. You want to develop yourself here. Especially before you move up into the 1% or move down. It's okay to be in this group. You want to move yourself up to the underdeveloped. $24 trillion is in this group. $24 trillion is in that group. 24 trillion. This is where, and this is the $39,000 a year income earners to the 150,000. You're not great income earners. It doesn't mean you don't know how to make money. It just means you're not in the 400,000 a year and up. You're also not below 31,000 a year, because now you're in poverty. Trust me when I say this, people in poverty still do way better than 99% of the world here in America. If you make 31,000 a year, wow, you're doing better than 90% of the world. Let me say that again. If you make $31,000 a year as a single human or as a family, you're doing better than 90% of the entire world. Just let that sink in for a second. You're doing better than 90% of the world. What they don't teach us here is how to take all this money we have and turn it into wealth. Not by investing. Yes, you want to invest it. Not by coming up with some fancy gadget or a business. But they don't teach us money principles. They don't teach us that. I have partners today that, spend more time. They don't stay partners long, or at least active partners. They spend more time telling me why things won't work instead of just doing it, because they got to be right. And then when something goes wrong, it's, everyone's fault but their own, because we don't know how to take responsibility of our own actions. So it's like being on a team. You can't be the boss if there is a boss. You can't be the quarterback if there's already a quarterback. You have to be the lineman or the receiver or the fullback or halfback, or you have to be something other than the quarterback. So the minute you try to usurp that authority and don't listen and say, no, I want what I want when I want it, and I don't care about anything else, that's when things fall apart in a business and family too. Okay? There's lots of variables out here in a game. Lots of variables in business. So anyway, that underdeveloped group, if you find yourself in that, you're in a great group. It's just about getting yourself positioned. And it doesn't always work out the way you want it to. The average business doesn't even, you won't even see a return usually for a couple of years. And not because they say so. It's because it takes a minute to get things in order for you as a business and to start building things, especially when you start hiring. It's okay to be broke as long as you have credit. But when you have that credit, you have to, if you're the bank, you better be responsible with learning how to work bank principles. Once you learn the banking principles, then you bypass everything that the banks are doing to you, and you put them to work for yourself. We have people come to us all the time, but they're smarter than we are. And I'm like, if you're smarter than me, why are you contacting us? Like, go away. You don't need to tell us how smart you are. Go tell the world how smart you are. You don't need to tell me. No, but I want to do business. No, you don't. You don't want to do business if you contact us and tell us how smart you are. So we go to give a consultation and it's all, hey, I'm smarter than you. Let's go over here to interesting. We have 1,000 viewers, 1,040. Thank you. 1,044 viewers. Appreciate you very well. Bruce Porter has some amazing followers and fans. Thank you for being fans of Bruce Porter. By the way, support him, support Bruce. He's going to some events. Support him. Send him some money. You guys, help him get to these events that he goes to. Okay? I mean, if you like his message, then support him. Give him some money. That's how it works. You're donating to Starbucks every day. I'm going to give you an example. This is where our whole life, we try to get ahead, but we go and advertise for we get us a cup that says Starbucks on it, and we advertise for them for free. Not only do we pay for the drink, yes, they give us the drink, but we pay for it. Then we advertise for them for free. Why don't you advertise for Bruce and help him? Do you think the business he does is free? It costs hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars to run his business. If you can buy a $9 drink, do the math. I'm not getting on anybody. I'm just evangelizing. $9 a day times 365. And we know the average person spends $48 a day outside the house every day. That's about $1,460 a day. That varies too. That fluctuates high and low. Some of you only make $2,000 a month, but the majority of it is spent outside of the house. Let's do the math. $48 a day outside the house. What does that include? Well, that includes buying groceries for the week. That includes gas. That includes food. That includes like coffee, lunch, dinner, going to the bar, kind of stuff. Okay. $48 a day. You do $48 a day times 365 days. That's $17,520 that we spend out giving somebody else our money. You multiply that by 30 years, and we spend $500,000 giving our money to somebody else who could give a flying F about you. And you're advertising the whole time. Every time you get a bag with Safeway's name on it, or say it's a grocery store out here in the West. I don't know if they're out there in the East Coast. Every time you get a Starbucks, you're advertising for them for free, and you paid for it. Every time we get a jersey with the team, local team, whoever that is, New York Giants out here in Texas, you know, the Dallas Cowboys or somebody like that, you get a team jersey or a hat, you advertise for them for free, and you bought the hat. I didn't even do the show I wanted to do tonight. But in this group right here, if you have a 720 or higher credit score, you have $40,000 in the bank or more, you have a couple of credit cards. And when I say 40,000 in the bank, I'm talking about, you know, it could be in an IRA, mutual fund, your 401ks, you know, where you can pull it immediately. Stocks and bonds, they're easy to get. I sold my Amazon shares one day and I had the money in my account the next day, literally the next day. There's nothing almost that you can't get these days almost instantly. Very few things are locked in where you absolutely cannot get it, you know. So anyway, we give away our rights and our banking functions to the banks. How do you think they make their money? Well, you put money in there, and then they loan out your money. They borrow your money from you. That's how it's done. And then they loan it out to other people. And then they pay you a rate to keep your money in there, usually about quarter to point, a percent to 1 point. Sometimes there's some banking options where you get 4% or so, something like that, depending on what, you know, how much you put in there and where you're putting it. And then they're going to take your money and they're going to multiply it by 10. So if you have $100 in your savings account, they're loaning $1,000 on your 100. If you have 1,000 in there, they're loaning out 10,000 to your 1,000. If you have 10,000, they're loaning out 100,000 to your 10,000. If you have 100,000, they're loaning out $1 million. They're loaning out $1 million to somebody else to the 100,000 that you have. And on the loans, typically, let's say, you know, they're low interest loans, typically around 4.9 to 8.11. We know right now, and that's a mortgage, not really it is a loan, but it's, without getting too deep in the weeds, you know, let's say they charge somewhere between 4% and 8.11%, and they give you 1 to 4%. So typically the lowest loans that they loan out is 4.99%. Okay. Now sometimes with vets, you know, it's like 2% or 2.9%. But once again, they're not going to give you more than 1% on your money unless you're putting, you know, hundreds of thousands in there. We dropped 200,000 one time into a money market there at Desert Financial. They gave me 1%. That bank I wouldn't do business with ever if I was you. Ever. I wouldn't do business with them. I'm not a fan of Desert Financial. I'm not a fan of Wells Fargo either. But once again, you have to pick your poison. So either either learn banking strategies that you do yourself, stop whining, bitching, and moaning about why you're broke and you got problems, or stick with the banks. But most of you have been doing this for a few years or 10 years or 30, 40, 50 years. Okay. It's never too late to change. And I'm talking to lots of people out there. We got 1,092 viewers watching us right now on X. We've had 2.2 thousand see us, but we've got a live audience now. Now on the television, we've got who knows how many. You know, typically we have about 80,000 people a day watching our channel. So anyway, 1.1 thousand people watching us right this second. We've had 2 people like, okay, thank you. 34 shares, 34 people have shared this video so far. 2 comments and 2, I love it. Thank you, Bruce. I love it, Bruce. Thank you, Bruce. He's our biggest fan. Of course, we're his biggest fan too, because, you know, he's on our network and he's very, very popular. Anyway, thank you, Bruce. Where was I? Totally lost my train of thought. But here, once again, if you're in this group right here, go to smartmoneyculture.tv/credit and sign up. And then, you know, we'll help you get business credit cards. And our ultimate goal is to help you become your own banker. That's our ultimate goal. And you don't have to go down that route, but why wouldn't you? Imagine this. So the banks loan out money at 4 to 8%, let's say, and they're giving you 1 to 4%. And so that spread at the 4.99, which is usually the lowest that they give on loans, interest, and the 4%, which is the max they're ever going to give you. Most of the time they give you 1% or less. So that spread is really where they make their money, on the money that they've loaned versus the money that they're paying you. Isn't that crazy? That's called a spread. The difference between the money that they've loaned out and the money that they have to pay because you give them the money, that's called a spread. And that's where they make their money. That's where every bank makes their money. And they want to give you massive credit, but most of us don't know how to get it. We don't know how to do the applications. And it's not your fault. They don't teach us what to say. Anyway, talking to a guy yesterday, and makes $1 million a year in his business, rotates $1 million a year. And now he has a really good business, solid business, but hardly pays himself anything. And he struggles from month to month because he has no credit. $1 million, and he's got less than 100,000 in credit. He's got like 50,000 in credit, 50,000 in credit. And this guy has $1 million of revenue coming in. And I told him, I said, I'm sorry, but you're one dumb mother effer. Yeah, he hung up on me for saying that to him. But sometimes you have to shock people, because why would you have that kind of money and be broke? If you have that kind of revenue coming into your business or your pay, then you should have at least double or triple that in credit, which is what I said to him. And here's what's funny is about 20 minutes later, he calls me back. So it is what it is. I'm just trying to say to you, I talk to a lot of people, and I talk to a lot of people, and I hear it's the same conversation every single time. Okay. But anyway, once you learn how to become a banker, then you put your money in the bank, you borrow back from yourself. Now, if you have a 401k, Those right there, I call them a scam. And the president, the founder of Vanguard says the same thing. It's a huge scam. But most people don't know how to work the 401k. So if you have a 401k, you can borrow from your 401k. And while you're borrowing from the 401k, it's going to pay you the interest on what you have in there. But as you're paying it back, they're charging you interest. Okay. The interest goes to the 401k. But if you pay it back in full, not only does that bring your account to full, but they also give you all the interest payments for making the loan that they loaned you of your money. So that's why it pays, if you have a 401k, to borrow from it. I'm not giving any financial advice. I'm just saying, if you borrow from your 401k and do it often, not like to pay for groceries and stuff like that. That's what your credit cards and your lines of credit are for, which is, I talk about that all the time. If you have credit cards or a line of credit, everything should be coming out of that to pay your bills, your basic bills. But if you want to buy a car or a house or something for your business, or do a major marketing campaign or something like that, those, send your kids to college, we're talking major purchases, that should come from your banking strategy. Because not only can you borrow from yourself, but the money gets to continue to work at full value. And then that compounds, especially as you pay it back. That compounds, and every year the compounding goes on top of the compounding, and then you put more money into it. It's just about where you're distributing. Most people who put money away, like in a savings account, wind up spending it. Imagine putting it into an account and being able to borrow it back. So how many times have you put money into a savings, and you put $10,000 in there, and then you borrowed and borrowed and borrowed and borrowed until there was nothing less? So when you took like 4,000, then you took like 3,000, then you took like that's 7,000, then you took like 2,500, and then you had to take the last $500, and then the 10,000 was gone. Imagine putting this money into an account, the 10,000, and you borrow back 9,000 of it, and this still is giving you 5 to 6% a year return. So the institution, the business that you put this into, loans you your own money back. They loan you the money, and this is your collateral, so to speak, and they're charging you interest. Typically it's about 5%, but you usually make 5.5 to 6%. So you're making about half to 1 point on what they loan you in the payback. But this gets to keep working for you. This, just because you borrowed the money doesn't mean this stops working for you. Now, and as you pay this back, not only do you make that whole, they made a little money on interest on you, but you typically made a little money on the spread. You always make money on the spread because it's set up that way. And that gets to keep compounding. And every year that compounds at 5%. Every year, let's say you put 10,000 in there a year, 10,000. Next year you got 20,000, and at $10,000, that's $600 in interest that you're going to make on that 10,000 that you put in there. So now that 10,000 is 10,600. And we're going to just do some simple math, okay? But at the end of 30 days, after you put that 10,000 in there, you can borrow 9,000 of it back. This is banking 101. And anybody can do this. Banking 101, anybody can do this. Donald Trump does this. Elon Musk does this. Warren Buffett does this. Pace Morby does this, probably. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, definitely does this. He preaches this stuff. He preaches how to be in debt. He talks about how he was in debt, 600 million. Then he said he's in debt 1.2 billion. Now he says he's $2 billion in debt. 2 billion. It's amazing. And then he lives on the cash flow. He's got a spread there, and he gets to live on the cash flow. He makes money in every direction that you can make. I'm just giving you a couple of directions. But you're making money on that every year. 10,000. That's on 10,000. The next year, you add another 10,000. Now you're up to 20,600. And that's going to gain 6%. So now you're up, 20,600 plus 5%, 6% is $1,236. That's compounded. Now in 2 years, by putting 10,000, you're at to 21,836. You made 1,836 on that in 2 years. You can still borrow 90% of that. The next year, it's going to do the same way. Third year, you're going to put it plus another 10,000 in. Now you're at 31,836 plus you're going to get your 6%, which is another 1,900. Now you're up to $33,746.16. That's in year 3. The next year, you're going to put another $10,000 in. Now you're up to $43,746.16 plus 6% interest that they're paying you on. You make $2,624.76. Now you're up in 4 years, you're at $46,370.92. Out of the $40,000 you put in there, you're at $6,300 in 4 years. $6,370 in 4 years. Let's just carry this out for, this is banking 101. Now, if you learn how to put this to use, let's take a picture of this first. When you learn how to become your own banker, using your credit cards or Donald Trump does this. All the billionaires do this. The centimillionaires do this. You don't have to be a billionaire or 100 millionaire to do this. A lot of folks that are in that underdeveloped do this. That's why there's $24 trillion sitting in that 95 million people that have that. There's actually, out of the 95 million, 64 million of those have good credit and somewhere between 100,000 and 750,000 in disposable income. How do you think they get that? We were just working on the 4th year. After 4 years of depositing 10K per year deposit, okay, 10,000 a year. That's awful writing. $10K a year deposit. Okay, you're going to make you're going to make 6% a year because all of these pay 5.5 to 6%. I could do it at 5.5, but let's do it at 6 and exaggerate a little bit. Of course, they all pay at 5.5 to 6. After 4 years, you've deposited $40,000. And this stuff compounds. 6% of 40,000 is only 2,400. But watch, the first year you put $10,000 in, and this you're going to multiply this times 6%. That equals $600. The next year, now you have 10,600. You're going to add 10,000 plus $10,000 to this deposit. That gives you 20,600. The 20,600 times 6% interest is $1,236. Is $1,236. Now you have $22,736. Let me see if I did that right. 20,600 times 6%. Yep, there you go. In the second year, now you're already at 22,736. Okay, and that's with the 6% interest that you put on there. Year number 3. You're going to put in another $10,000. Now, the average person, as they start going up, makes more every year. That brings that to $32,736. This is simple math here, guys. Math does not lie. Times 6%. That's $1,964.16. You add those together. Now you're at $34,700.16. Let's just go to the 4th or 5th year, okay? Now you're going to add another $10,000. This is what becoming your own banker does. You add in 16 cents plus $10,000 for the year. Now you're at $44,700.16. And anytime you can be borrowing up to 90% of this. Hold on, I'm going to give you the story. Times 6%. That's $2,682.00. Or excuse me, and 1 penny and 1 cent. That brings that account in 4 years to $47,382.17. Now let's go into the 5th year. You're going to add another $10,000. You guys just stay with me. Just stay with me. Plus $10,000. You're going to have $57,382.17. What's up? For what?
Oh, you sent me an invite on the calendar here for Zoom.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't mean.
Oh, yes, I did. I was doing an example on TV.
Okay.
I gotta go. I'm in the middle of something.
I just wanted to make sure everything was good.
All right, thank you. That was my assistant there, smarter than I am. I was showing people how to fill this out, that application, and then I added her in there as I was doing the example there, and I forgot I did that like 2 days ago. She just showed up for the meeting. All right, you're in the 5th year now. You added the $10,000 to the $47,380. And by the way, at any time you can be borrowing up to 90% of this money. It still is working for you where it doesn't break the compounding. Like in the bank, what happens in the bank, if you have this money in here and you borrow it, it stops the compounding that they're giving you on the interest that they're giving you. It stops it. But in this scenario, when you learn how to do it with our strategy here, we didn't make it up. I'll break it down to you another time. But when you do this strategy right here, you're making interest the whole time that you borrowed the money. Let's add the interest to that. Plus 6%. That's $3,442.93. And we're just talking about putting $10,000 a year here. Now your account's up to $60,825.10. And you've only been doing this for what? 6 years. One, two, three, four, 5, 6. Okay. Now you're going to add in the 7th year $10,000. We're going to go to 10 years. That brings that to $70,825.10. $70,825.10 times 6%. That's $4,249.51. $70,825.10 plus 42.49.51. That brings it to $74.61. That's in 7 years. In 7 years. In 7 years, you made $5,000 in interest on that. And you could have borrowed up to 90% of this money the whole time. Up to 90% of this the whole time. And it's still paying you this compounding interest. This is what I'm trying to say to you. Whew. Hold on, guys. Hold on, guys. So anyway, I'm going through a scenario and I'm showing you how the interest keeps compounding when you become your own banker. Okay. And I talk all the time about velocity banking, how to use your credit cards, how to use your HELOCs, your personal lines of credit. That's just the beginning of this. That's just the beginning. When you take this the next steps further and take this into the insurance part, your whole life insurance, then you've got, oh my gosh, and you set this up specifically for you and your family. And by the way, I'm not selling insurance. Okay. But this is the strategies that you go down to become your own banker so that you take away the functions that you give the bank. I take people to do this all the time, been doing it for years, very successfully. A few of you will screw it up. I've screwed things up before. Doesn't mean you can't get it right. But in 7 years, you've got $1,000. Then you add $10,000 to that, your 8th year. Now you're at $85,000. $74.61. Okay. Now let's add the 6% interest. So this is what the compounding does. We're the only country in the world that does compound interest. The only country in the world that does compounding interest. Uh-oh. 85,074.61 plus 5104.48. Now you're at $90,000. This is the 8th year. You're at $90,179.09. This is just with putting $10,000 a year in. That's it. You add the 6% interest, which is $5,410.75. All right, I messed that up. $90,179.09 plus $5,410.75. Now you're at $95,589.84. Now, this is not year number 9. You add 6% to this, which brings you to $5,735.39 plus that brings you to $101,325.23. This is year number 10 plus 6%, which is $6,079.51. You're at 100 after 10 years. You're at $107,404.74. And the whole time you could have been borrowing up to 90% of this money. This is just compounding at 6%. That's all. And this is how it goes to. It's incredible. Now, this isn't getting rich money. This isn't getting rich money, but this all adds up into your, that goes along with your other investments that you're doing. This is just with your basic banking functions of making deposits and then paying for the major things that you have, like a house or a car or sending someone to college or you starting a business, buying major purchases for the business. That's all this is. It's talking about how you spend your money and how you pay it back. This ain't about getting rich. This is just your basic banking functions. That's it. Your basic banking functions. You put your money into the bank and then you give them the authority to loan it out, because that's what they do. And they make all that interest on you. You make not one dime. And then they give you half to 1% max. You know this to be true. If you have any money in the bank that they're giving you money on, unless you put it into a certain type, and that's large amounts, but you're locking it in for a year, 2 years. You're not touching it, minimum, and they'll give you like 4% on it, typically, not usually more than that. If they do, you have to put large amounts in, and you're getting it locked away for 5 to 7 years. Okay, and they give you 4, 5, 6%, but they take your 100,000 or your 200,000 or whatever it is. That these are, I mean, it could be any large amounts, right? But 100,000, and they're loaning out $1 million at 8%. Yeah, so they make 80,000 off and pay you on your 100,000, maybe $4,000, maybe. I put in 200,000. They gave me 1%, 1 point, and said, "Congratulations, we're giving you 1 point, man. Good job. Wow." That he actually did that. Like, wow. How stupid can I be? I'm off the air on television. A fucking idiot. We're off TV, so I can say how I really feel. They treat us like we're morons, like we're stupid. And we let them, because we think we have to follow this system that they tell us that we have to be in. And we will fight to the death to say, no, I can't do it differently. They won't let me. That's what happens when you trade your labor for a paycheck. And I'm talking to the 2,000 or so people that were watching us on Twitter, on X, excuse me, Elon, on X. These guys are crazy. We have 1,263 live viewers right now on X. Thank you for being loyal. You guys help Bruce get to his next event. This is how he spreads the word. Well, I'm not doing any politics right now, but I am a Trump fan, and he's only going to have 1 year left, or this one term left, and I'm not betting my money on JD Vance to do anything. Like, he's going to have to do something really spectacular for me to want to even. But that's so far ahead in the future. It has nothing to do with today. Right now, we're talking about being in charge of our own economy. So those of you out there, and some of you sent me comments who are watching us here on Twitter. Oh, I'd rather watch TV instead of. I'd rather the deal I have on our show says, because you can't get rich watching sitcoms. I love it. Because you can't get rich watching sitcoms. Hold on. There it is. Because you can't get rich. We had a couple of people from Twitter here, you guys, and I love you guys. You're Bruce's and David's great following. But I had a couple of people said, hey, I'd rather watch sitcoms and not get rich. That's okay. It's whatever you want to do. But you can't complain that the system is rigged against you, because the system is rigged for you. You just have to learn how it's played. And if you're not playing in the system and you're depending on somebody else to do it for you, and it's okay that somebody does it for you, but you better listen. If you think somebody's fucked your life, it's right. You have. It's you. You've done it to yourself. So I was told a long time ago that the guy who blames somebody else got a long way to go. The guy who takes responsibility for himself and everything that's happening in his life or her life is halfway there. Those who stop blaming 100% have already arrived. So you just have to decide what plane you want to be on. Where do you want to be? Now, when it comes to this, anybody can be here. And this isn't about getting rich. This has nothing to do with your retirement, even though if you do this correctly, there's other parts of this, like your 401k money. We're just talking about 10,000, 100,000 over 10 years, putting in here. There's other ways you can invest this, plus get your death benefits out of this, where you pay out $1 million a year, or $1 million in death benefits, plus too, if you set this up correctly, you can set it up for when you turn 60 or so, you make 70, 80, 90,000 a year, instead of worrying about the Social Security. Now, the older you are, the more you're going to have to put into it to start it off. But in a few years, you can be off and running for sure. Once again, this strategy here is not about getting rich or making any kind of real money. It's a system. It's the basic banking systems that you're using now that you're giving away to the banks. You're giving the authority away to the banks to spend your money and loan your money out to somebody else, and for them to make interest on your money. We give that basic right away to the banks. So once again, this is just our banking functions here, where we put the money in. We can borrow it right back out if we wanted to. You could borrow up to 90% of this, and as you pay it back, you don't lose any of the compounding interest. Like here at the let's just take this at the first year. You put 10,000 in, you can borrow up to 90% of that, $9,000. It's still compounding the interest at your 6%, let's say. Most of these pay out 5.5% to 6%, have for 100 years. There's not one year that they've never not paid it out. Not one year. Not one year. It's like the NASDAQ has not one time ever not given a return of 8 to 12%. Not once. Imagine that compounding for 100 years. I want to put $10,000 a year for 40 years into an insurance policy, whole life, where they're going to pay me 6% compounded. Scenario number 2, I want to buy $10,000 worth of NASDAQ shares where it pays 8% return a year for the next 40 years. Do the math on these two scenarios. Are you ready? On the whole life insurance, 10,000, 6% compounded interest for 40 years. Okay. $1,547,619.66. The NASDAQ, $2,590,000, $565.19. And we give this kind of money to our federal government, who totally fucks us and gives us $2,000 a year to live on. Like, oh yeah, I'm that fucking stupid. I'm that stupid. And we are, because we let them do it to us. We had a revolution over a 2% tax on tea. Serious. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Donald J. Trump, Elon Musk. Could you imagine Kamala Harris trying to tell us to do something like this? What an insult to brown people. Saying she's African American. She's not African American. She's not black. Her dad's from Jamaica or something like that, who's black, but they're Jamaican. Her mother's from India. They're not African American. She says she's African American. She's not African American. She don't even like you guys. Listen to me, Black America. She hates you with a passion. When she was DA, she locked you up specifically because she fucking hates you. Incredible. Anyway, it is what it is. I'm not against anybody. I am pro-American getting ahead, learning how to become your own banker. I am for that. So over the period of 40 years, putting 10,000 or you put 400,000 total in this. And this isn't about getting rich. This is the banking functions that we give away to the banks freely and let them make money on our money and totally screw us. I like the banks too, by the way. I love them. I think it's a great institution. I don't care what you think about the banks. I like the banks. I want to be a bank. And you can do these same functions that a bank does yourself. Do you think they're going to care? No. Because there's not enough of you that's going to ever do it to affect them. I'm sorry. There's not enough of us out here to do it to affect them. They don't care if you make yourself a gazillionaire. They don't give a crap. They don't care. In 40 years, this scenario here, 40 years, 10,000 times 40 is $400,000 at that 6% compounded interest. $1,547,619.96. 1 million. Imagine paying a house I had to move my. Imagine paying a house, okay? Should I do it that way? Yep, that's the way you do it. A house where you have a $400,000 mortgage. The interest on that $400,000 mortgage at, let's do the math on it. This is why when you learn how to divert, the interest that you would pay by using a velocity banking strategy, by using your own credit or lines of credit, and then when you add your own banking, where you take back the same banking functions that you give away to the banks. By the way, I am not against any bank. I'm for the banks. I think Desert Financial sucks. I'm not putting them down. But when COVID hit, we were doing $500,000 a month or more. And I had a lot of people on staff. And I'm a minority. By the way, I don't do that minority stuff. But they told me, you're a minority. We're going to get you a lot of money here that we're getting these other companies so you can keep people on staff. And instead of doing that, what did they do to us? Nothing. And then they said, oh, we ran out of money. I'm sorry. I was doing the application. They said, don't fill in. They said, don't fill out the application. We'll do it for you. Yeah. Anyway, when you learn how to divert that, I'm going to give you a little. Yeah. Thanks, Faith, for showing up. All right, you see this, guys? So here's the interest here. Let's say you get a loan for $400,000 at 4.99%. Good luck on that one. But let's say you're a vet and that's what they give you. 30 years, you're going to pay on a $400,000 loan $372,142. On this loan, you're going to pay $372,142. You're going to pay $372,142 and what? 40 cents. This is in interest payments alone. In interest payments alone. When you learn how to do the velocity banking strategies that we teach, there's a couple of ways you can do this. One is you can use your, like a HELOC or a personal line of credit or credit cards to pay this down. And then you could take your paycheck and put it in here. Or there's lots of ways to borrow. You're winning out by borrowing here, putting it in here, borrowing it back from here. So you can borrow from your HELOC, put it into this account here, and then borrow it back, and then pay back through here. So not only are you paying this back, you're making money on the spread, because typically they're going to loan this to you for about 5% or 5.5%, but usually you're going to make 5.5 to 6% a year on this, on the compounding interest. So you make a half a point, 1 point to half a point typically on the spread, no matter what. But once again, as you're paying this back, you still don't lose the value. You get what I'm saying? You don't lose the value of the money. This is just incredible. So that compounding still goes as long as you pay that back over the period of 40 years. You're going to wind up having about $1.5 million. That's just at $10,000 a year that you're putting in there. And if you're making 39,000 to 150,000, you're in the game. You're your own banker. You're your own banker. This is just incredible stuff. This is not something that now half of you out there saying that guy's an idiot. He's stupid. And the other half of you say, well, we're already doing it, or I want to learn, I want to know more. And that's okay. Whatever boat you're in, we're not against you if you think I'm stupid. I'm not against you at all. But, you know, contempt before investigation will keep somebody in everlasting ignorance. And if somebody screwed up your life, it's you. There's nothing in a mall. If you go to malls, there is nothing in a mall that you can buy that 10 years from now is going to matter one stinking bit that's going to bring any value to you. There's nothing in a mall you can buy. Stop going to the mall and sending your kids to the mall and teaching them bad habits. And if you're a crypto guy, whoo! When you learn this and how to borrow your own money and put it into your own crypto, holy shit moly. Imagine going to the moon and making this kind of money just by doing your regular banking functions that you give the banks authority to do with your money already right this minute. Wow. Come on, guys. I need some of you go over there, please, to at Watch Smart Money. We had one of you do that. That's okay. Support Bruce for sure. You guys send him some money and send him to that event. We're going to do an interview with President Donald J. Trump in September at the UN blockchain event. You guys who are loyal followers and supporters of him, you take on these strategies right here, and you can do anything you want at any time you want. Anytime you want, anywhere you want. Hold on one second. That is amazing. We have 1,400 people watching. Thank you, live. Somewhere around there. It says 1,367, but I think it's been updated to 1,400. We've had 2,900 tune in. 23 of you liked the videos. Thank you. 43 of you have shared this video. Thank you. And 2 comments. Both comments were from Bruce. All right, 1,406 people watching. 1,406 people watching live. Thank you for watching. Tell your friends right now. Tell your friends and family. Go wake them up. Say, get the fuck up. It's only 1:29 in the morning. Sorry for my cussing. I am a cusser. Now, I can't do this on FCC regulated, my TV channels. Those of you who are tuning in for the very first time, I am Fly Mackey. I'm the CEO of Smart Money Culture Television Network, and Bruce has a show on my network. And we have 5 channels, and this is broadcast television into homes. Like if you're sitting in your home right now and you turned on your TV, this is broadcast television. If you were in Texas, in one of these cities right here, Corpus Christi, College Station, Beaumont, or Houston, the reason I bought these channels is because Houston is the 6th largest DMA, it's a direct marketing area in all of America. That means Houston, this area where the Houston TV station is in that marked DMA is the 6th most area in the United States for spending consumer and business money. A lot of money. It's the 6th in the whole country. Coming to Tallahassee soon. But these are ones that Bruce has his TV show. Bruce has his TV show every day in those 5 cities. Thank you for the 2,900 viewers, which I think is the most we've ever had. Which I think is the most we've ever had. We've had 44 people share this. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Bruce. But you guys support Bruce and get him to that next event up there. Support him. If you use these strategies right here, you're giving hundreds of thousands. Imagine this, having a mortgage and giving 300. This is at 4%. $372,000. The average mortgage across the board right now is 8.118%. 8.118% is the average mortgage interest rate right now across the country. Some are a little bit less, some are a little bit more, but that's what it is. 8%. Let's do the math on that. $400,000 at 8.118. It's already in there. 30 years. Do the calculation. You're looking at $2,968.03 a month is your average payment. You're going to pay $668,490.80 in interest over 30 years. If you amortize that out, you're going to pay about $2,700 in interest a month, at least for the first 4 months. Then it goes down to $2,698. You're in the $2,600 range until the 51st month, 4 years and 3 months before it gets out of $2,600 in interest. Then you go to $2,598.47 in interest. Imagine taking this money here and putting it off into your insurance, into your banking strategies, and then borrowing back the money to pay off your loan, to pay off your loans, and then paying yourself back. So you just took out the functions of the bank. But there's two ways you win. You win on the spread and you win on the compounding interest. So the spread is the difference between the interest that they're going to charge you. So typically, on this strategy here, you're going to borrow it back at about 5%. Sometimes 5.5%. Okay, 5.55 to 5.5%. And these policies typically pay out 5.5 to 6%. Okay, so usually you can work a deal. Usually you're going to make money on the spread. Okay, it's pretty typical to make at least half a point on the spread. Okay, so somewhere in here, usually there's going to be at 5 to 5.5%, but you're going to make 5.5 to 6%. And as you borrow, you're borrowing back 90% of the money. 90% you're allowed to borrow back out of your money, your cash that you put in there. But it doesn't break the compounding interest. So the interest that they give you, that part doesn't break. So there's a couple of ways you make money here. There's lots of ways. If you're using velocity banking and you're borrowing money out of your HELOC or your lines of credit or your credit cards to put into the policy, and then you're using some of your paycheck to pay that back, you win that way. You win that because you save all that interest there. But this money here is you're making 6% typically on this a year. And if you borrow, and you can still borrow 90% of it back to go invest somewhere else, but it doesn't break that $10,000 you put in there, or as $10,000 per year at 100, at 2 years, you got 20,000. You can borrow 90% of that 20,000 back, and you're still getting paid that 6% interest as long as you make your payments and you don't default on it. It's your money. You can decide, I'm never going to pay it back. it's better if you pay it back because you get all that compounding interest. And then you make money on the spread between the interest that they charge you and the interest that you made. And every year that compounds, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And bigger. And then you're making money on the velocity. So you're saving all that interest that you would be paying to the house. So that $362,000, or in this case, it's how much? That one case was $372,000. In this particular case, it's $668,000. I could have done that differently. It's $668,490. This is how you become your own banker. And then you get to take back the banking functions once again that you gave away. Let's take a look at some crypto. Holy cow. And there's Bitcoin right there trading at $59,173. Now look at this. This tells the story. It's down 31% in trading for the day. 28 billion and 58 million. $28,058,473,000 that is traded today in the last 24 hours. But that's down 31% in trading volume for the day. It's still not in a buy or sell position. This thing has been going sideways kind of for the last week or two. Let's take a look at the dashboard and then I'm going to take you to a chart over here. Imagine taking these banking strategies that we teach you and you becoming your own banker, saving all that interest and putting it towards crypto to build your crypto portfolio. I'm not giving any advice. We're not financial advisors. I'm just saying. Let's take a look at the chart here. By the way, it's in a no sell position. It's no sell. It's not a sell or buy position at all. It's been that way for a week. This is a daily chart right here. And you see here, it's trying to make. This goes back all the way to the May. Depending on how you want to look at this. Look at that. So it hits the bottom of this mountain right here. This doesn't make much sense, but it hits the bottom of this mountain, hits the bottom of this mountain, and you see here, this one right here, it didn't quite make it to it, but it went through it and then came back up. Now, this is 100%, this channel has been going down. So you could put that right there if you wanted to. See, it hit there, hit there, hit there, made it through there, but didn't stay. And this is a day chart too, by the way. We'll go from the high here. And you could make it, you want to go on the highs here. So it hit, So it hit the top of this one at 72,000. Of course, over here where it made it to 73,000, and then it cut through. It hit the top of this one, but not this one, and then it hit the top of this mountain here. So this isn't exact, but you can see that this channel here, see this? It's been going down. This trend has gone down, not up. Now, you'd hit the bottom here, the red, which is in the negative. You're hitting the bottoms here, but here you're hitting the tops of the green candle of where it's made its highs. And of course, you could even take it to that. I wouldn't do that. Take it right there. Hit this high, hit this high. You see here, it hit this high, it hit this high perfectly, it hit this one perfectly, and then it went down, and then it went through here. So it was trying, you see this? You see that volume there? Where it was trying to make it through here, but didn't make it through the day. It didn't make it. The next day it tried, and then the sellers had their way, and it brought it back down into this channel here. So it's tried to make its way up, but didn't. And the matter of fact, here it failed miserably here, failed miserably in these 2 days here, failed really bad here. It just peaked through there. But you can see this, it's obvious that this channel is going down. Yeah, that's an obvious channel moving down. Yep, you can see it there. And here we're taking the bottoms, but here you're taking the tops, the peaks and the valley. So here's but you can see how that's moving downward, right? That's the that's probably closer to it right there. It's interesting though. This is very interesting to see where this may be heading. And you see here, every time it does this, and by the way, I have this charted down to $400. And people call me crazy. You can call me crazy all you want. But I do think there's going to be a reset. And I think that reset is coming before October, where you may see a reset. You may see a reset back down to under 14,000. And if we don't, and every analyst will tell you this, if we don't, and this thing hits all new highs up into the 188,000, because we haven't had that 80% retreat yet. So $73,000 is a high. You have your 80% reach, somewhere between 60 and 80, but 80%, it's going to retreat 80%. It has to sooner or later, because the numbers play out like that. That's the way the numbers play out. And it's been historically that way the numbers play out, because that's what investors are going to do. They're going to take their money. That brings you right back down to 14,600. So if it doesn't happen now or soon, and we hit up into the 400,000s, wow, that is going to be very painful. Now, I have it charted to 82, 88, 92 or 95, 104, 108, 135, 143, 158, and 188. I could be off a couple of those, but I got them pretty much memorized. I've charted it so many times. From there, I had 245, 255, all the way up to $442,000. Now, if it goes and hits the moon and it starts popping up above 180,000, really, if it up above 225,000, if it pops past 225,000, there's no stopping it to hit 1 million. But that's going to be very painful for some of you folks who get a little wild there, because it's going to retreat. And when it does, probably the major retreat would be around 400,000. But once again, you got people that are buying in because they know it's going to the moon, or they think it is, and they start buying in at 80,000, which they will. There's people who are going to buy in at 100,000, at 200,000, at 300,000. They're going to buy in at 400,000. They're going to buy in at $1 million. And this is where it's going to be really painful when that retreats back, because there's going to be no history to save it. So if it pops once again and goes up to 180 or 220 or 400,000 or $1 million, there's nothing in between that 73,000 and that 400,000 or that million to save it. Nothing. There's nothing to save you once it starts going down. You see all this extra volume in here? You see all this? There's a lot of room to save you, but there's a lot of room to save you in here. But if it was the hit, and this is real simple charting, but and let's just use this one for an example that we're in right now. And this was to go to the moon. Let's say this was to go to the moon, and it took the trend that it's in now in this lane right here and popped up. I actually have this charted at 188,000. So that would be right about there. And this went to the moon. There would be nothing to save it in here. From here up to here, if it just went straight up to the moon, this is why you don't want this going to the moon unless you happen to buy down here. And if you do, then it would make a lot of sense to take your profits, because if you don't and it comes back down, it's not that it won't go back up, but you wouldn't have been able to take advantage of the profits when it was there, because it doesn't mean it's going to go back up there again anytime soon if that's what happens. But I definitely have this charted down here to 180. Let's take a look at one more chart here. So this is a really simple chart here. This is kindergarten stuff, but the reason I do it this way is because when you listen to all these other analysts, and these analysts make it so confusing, and the average person is not charting. They're not doing the Fibonacci and all these different type charts where it gives the examples of where it may or may not go to. And they're definitely not going to tell you that it's going to the moon or it may hit back down to 14,000. But I'm willing to say it because I've been doing this. I've been around Bitcoin since, it was listed at 9 cents. I've been around it for a long time. And it's not that I'm an expert or anything like that, but when you watch something, like when you watch something grow, you know what that is. When you watch your kid grow from a baby from 1 day old to 10 years old or 14, you know that kid like you know your hand, because it's your kid. So I've been watching this, and a lot of other folks have been watching this from the very beginning. And you can see where this thing is going. And if it doesn't go there, you're going to be highly surprised. I'm going to be really highly surprised if Bitcoin doesn't retreat back down into the under 20,000. I'd be really surprised before it goes to the moon. I'd be completely surprised if it didn't. Now, once again, I'm not giving any scientific data on this, but I am just talking to you about where I think this may be heading. And I do think we're heading for a retreat here. You see here, if it was to follow into, if it was to follow, if it stays in this channel, you see this channel? It's in this channel now. It's been in this channel since June. It's actually been in this channel since, you see this, how it's been going down? It's actually been in this channel since, so it's been in this channel since February, the 27th or so of February of this year. And then, of course, it's tried to make its way up. And you can see this very first time where it tried to make its way to the moon. It tried. It's so simple to see this. And this is why I say, just play around with this stuff. Every single time I chart this, it always comes to the same results of $188,000. Somewhere around 188. See this right here? This little channel right here, see this? When it came up into this to make its all new highs, this is where it was going. And if it would have gone up to the moon as you wanted to do, it would have done it somewhere in the month of June, somewhere between Sunday the 2nd of June and June the 15th. There's about a 2-week period there that it could have gone to the moon and gone here. Now, it didn't, but you can see the path that it could have taken us there too. And it all leads to this area right here, to the 180,000 area. Let me take this away right here. Let me get rid of that and get rid of this. This isn't, once again, this isn't scientific or anything like that. Remove. This isn't scientific. But here's, right now, this is a little channel that's, even though it's going down and this is going sideways, this could decide to go up. And if it did, this is the channel that it would go into if it was going to hit the next highs of 188,000. And by the way, I'm not the only one that says that Bitcoin is going to 188,000. There's a lot of world-class analysts that believe that it's going to 188,000. Maybe not stop there or go directly there, but I do think that we're looking at, it could go there. It could go there. It could go there. We could see Bitcoin go, if it went to the moon, the first stop, let's say if it goes to the moon, the first stop would be 188,000. But once again, that's dangerous category, especially as you're buying, because it's going to retreat sooner or later, that 80%. And when it comes back that 80%, wow, that's going to be, whew. Let's do the math on that one. If it goes to 188,000, straight up to 188,000 and it retreats at 80%, you're coming back down into the $37,600 range. And it actually would come back to the 80% of the previous all-time high if it went to the moon, which most people don't understand. But let's say it went to 73,000, which it did, right? And you're minusing 80%, that would bring it down to 14,600. So if it decided today to go to the moon up to 188,000 and it retreated its 80%, it's going to be that 80% of the 73,000. So not only would it lose all that from 73,000 to 188, but it'd lose 80% of that 73,000 back down to 14,000. That would be a major, major catastrophe for a lot of folks, for a lot of reasons. And it'd be major glory and a lot of jumping up and down and hallelujahs for a lot of other people. It just depends on who you are and where you're at in that scenario. But once again, based on my charting, I believe that's where we're heading. I believe this is where we're heading. Let me get rid of these. You know, I might, just for shits and giggles, just for giggles, I may leave this. But you got 1 day for this to do this. 1 day, and then we're out of here. Maybe. You've got about 1 day. And we're already into it. See that? You've got 1 day here. See here, it's almost at that line right there. If you really want to be true about it. Yeah, we're there. If I wanted to be true about the chart, yeah. So today or tomorrow, it would have to hit today or tomorrow to the moon for this to happen. Just for giggles, I'm going to leave it in. But once again, you know, this is where the trajectory, this is where it's heading down into this channel right here. And I got it down all the way to 0. Right at $386 or $416, somewhere in that range. $416. Anyway, folks, y'all been a great audience. Man, I appreciate you so much, and thank you for joining us, you late nighters. That's crazy. We had about 3,200 viewers today. Thank you. And then we had 24 people that liked the video. And out of that, you know, we had 45 people share the video. And then Bruce made both comments. I don't think we have the comments turned on. So typically you get about 1% that will like so per 1,000, right? And that would have been 32. We had 24. So some of you guys out there that are watching, hit the like button there for Bruce, because this is how they make money, right? So you support him by hitting that like button. And if you're not a follower of Bruce, hit the follow button. Hit the follow button and help him out. 1,532 live viewers right now. So once again, Fly Mackey, proud to be here. I may go on a little bit earlier, but I'll do live. It's 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You know, the most watched hours for television, either streaming TV or live TV, is 3 a.m. in the morning, which is 1 more hour from now on the East Coast. People start waking up and you got all those hours. I mean, it's the most watched time, 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 a.m. Central, Mountain, and Pacific. So going to call it a night. Well, now I've got viewers coming on, 1,532. We went up like 31 viewers in the last 1 minute. All right, come on. Start watching. Come on, Donald Trump supporters. Who's that guy? CJ Vance? JD Vance is his VP. I'm voting for Trump for sure. Used to be back in the day, you'd say it's none of your business who I'm voting for, but now it's like you gotta say it. You don't have to. It's just kind of strange, you know, where we wear our politics on our sleeve. It's kind of strange. It's not what it used to be, that's for sure. But you know, once you become in charge of your own economy, where you're taking back your own banking functions, and I'll get into some of this as the days go by. You know, I like to talk about credit and stuff like that. You guys can make a comment if you want. If you want to make a comment, go ahead. Feel free. I'm eating some candy. All right. I'm Fly Mackey. Good night, America. And we'll see you tomorrow.